Yeah, I know, my title is controversial. I like to be a drama queen, what can I say? In this video, I'm gonna share with you my opinion on wet blending and try to explain what many other painters fail to tell you. Before I begin, do remember to sneak in behind the like button and slightly kick in behind the knee so the latter will give in and he will be very annoyed. It's more than likely that your first approach to miniature painting was the heavy metal style. So base coat, wash, layer, edge highlights. Then you started hearing about these cool techniques: feathering, glazing, and wet blending. And especially wet blending had this reputation to be very magical and fun to play around with. Also because somehow it gives you the illusion that you're working with another medium like oils. But like with dental priming, which I talk about in this video, it's one of those techniques that seems easy, it's not. And that's mainly because acrylics have a very fast drying time, opposite to oil paints, and they cause a series of issues. Issue number one: when and if the colors dries in the middle of the blending and you touch it with your brush, you run the risk to drag the pigment away and leave a horrible mark, which you probably don't want. Ouch. Issue number two: the more value jump, the more difficult it's gonna be to blend. If you don't know what value is, check out this video. The correct brushstroke that you should be using for wet blending is anything but beginner or intermediate friendly. And in most cases, you're gonna end up using this up and down motion horizontally. That's gonna lead to you leaving a lot of unwanted brush strokes. Issue number four: for all the other issues, you're probably gonna stuck in a motion of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in order to create the tone that you want, which in my experience, you will likely never see. Issue number five: if you don't use the right consistency, this will add to the loop in which you're gonna do the same thing over and over again. And that's why the paint dilution is very important and it's not easy to deal with. Trust me, I've been there. It's frustrating. Issue number six: this technique in its purest form is mostly used as a sketch, using a higher quantity of paint that you are able to move around the model. And I have a video on my Patreon about sketching as quick with this technique, but also Hangyo in this video nails the point of wet blending. The more color you have on your canvas, in this case the miniature, the more time you'll have to work with it. But then again, this higher quantity of paint on your model to spread with your brushstroke, it's not very intermediate or beginner friendly now, is it? Is it? Is it? Given that, there's a pivotal thing that no one talks about when approaching miniature painting techniques. All these techniques are incorporated. Wet stippling, fat glazing, feathering, dotting. They are all used together to work together for a common goal. So it's likely that whatever technique you're using, you're working on a wet surface with two colors that meet one another. So what is my suggestion? My suggestion is start with the basic. You have to be able to walk before you can run. A good and an opaque base coat applications, good layering, training the brush hand to certain movements, making the piece readable with black lining, while also training the hand to be precise, steady, to be more careful where the point of your brush ends up to. For intermediate painters, I would suggest you create different layers with different values and do opaque layers and then feather out the transition. This is because the more layers, the more gradients you have, the less hard it's gonna be blending the transition. So I suggest you do that first. Like I said, for zenithal priming, at the end of the day, wet blending is not a technique that's easy to master. I just wouldn't suggest them to a beginner or an intermediate because there are better options out there.